Hello, I'm doing a long overdue review of this gate made by RockerGaming. He's casting it in resin. He has all different kinds of colors, and it looks like a really promising and awesome replacement option that is basically unavailable right now. We have my 3D printed gates, but as you can see, this is very crisp and very detailed. It looks almost exactly like an OEM gate, except it's in this fancy copper color. So this last revision of his gate moved the sprues that were on the previous one. There were sprues here, here, and these two are not a problem, but the ones that were here were causing interference with the short gear. So when the short gear goes to its full range of motion, it hits on that. It hits that flat area where you can see on any OEM gate you can see these. These are where I think these are where the push pins that push the part out of the mold, they left that circle depression. So he put sprues there, but they were sticking up instead of being a depression. So they were limiting the range of motion of the short gear. Now the new mold doesn't have sprues there, so he's good. He's good on that. So I think he's fixed all that. Now, so I'm just going to do a little comparison. So this is my newest version of my bronze stick. It's the one I haven't released yet, and it feels great in this module. It's got new OEM gears and a steel stick 64 bowl, the grade A bowl. I don't have any of my own at the moment that are polished up, so I use a steel sticks bowl just because a lot of people have those, and I think it's a good baseline to get a good feel for what your module should be. So, alright. So I'm going to take benchmarks of this module, and then I'll swap out the gate, and we'll take benchmarks of that, and I'll kind of demonstrate the feel. So this one, before I change the video over to the benchmarks, it feels smooth. Pay attention to the sound when it hits the gate. It'll sound different on Rocker's gate. The texture of the gate, it feels I don't feel any grittiness or anything in the gate. It feels pretty smooth. The notches feel kind of slippery with a bronze stick. I would think they wouldn't be as slippery with like a plastic stick, but they feel a little slippery with the bronze stick on the OEM gate. So that's the feel, and now I'll change the video over to benchmarks. Okay, here we are in the benchmark app with the OEM gate installed. So centering is pretty good. Alright, so we're just going to go straight into the testing of the benchmarks real quick here. Alright. Cool. So there it is. That's this particular stick with these gears and the OEM gate, which is in decent shape. So we'll fit the same module with the RockerGaming gate, and then we'll do another test just to compare the benchmarks. Okay, so now we've got the gate swapped over, and let's just do a little feel. So everything is set exactly the same as the other one, and notice there's a teeny tiny bit more dead zone than this one. It's very slight. It's not even hardly noticeable. During gameplay I don't really notice dead zone very much, if it's that small. And oftentimes if there is a tiny bit of dead zone, it helps the stick find the center better, because there's a tiny bit of slop to help it glide back to the center. Grease also helps with that. There is no grease in this module. I didn't put any grease because these parts could be used in other modules, and I don't like to get grease all over my fingers, so I just, whenever I'm testing things, I don't put grease on them. That's just a personal preference. Anyway, so let's see what this is like. Honestly, the feel, it almost feels a little better than the OEM, and that could be because of the slight amount of dead zone. I'm noticing that a tiny bit of dead zone actually improves feel. If it's 100% tight, it doesn't feel quite so good. But anyway, so first impressions, I will say. So this one, the OEM, feels slightly, ever so slightly smoother, and this is without grease. If there was grease, they might feel pretty much the same, but I noticed there is a slight amount of texture as I run the stick on the gate, versus this one, it felt almost a little bit too slick against a bronze stick. So the texture actually helps you. It almost gives you like a haptic feedback on the gate. So people who like to play Super Mario 64, it might be good to actually help you find a notch, because you can feel the stick moving on the gate, versus the other one, it's so smooth you can't hardly feel it. This one's so smooth, it feels like it has grease on it when there's no grease on it right now. So another thing I notice about it that is different is the sound when it hits the gate is different. It's a little louder, but it's not a problem. It looks amazing. I actually think it looks better than the OEM gate. Now, so those are things that I noticed that are positive. If I was to close my eyes, if I couldn't hear the gate, and if I didn't know that texture was there, I'd say this is a new OEM gate, just without looking at it. Now, a few flaws. The shells don't fit together quite like OEM, and look at this. There's a little bit of slop there, but whenever this module is installed, these screws are in, and they're holding everything in, so the slop goes away. That's just on this particular gate. It could be just like variation between different gates. I'm not sure, but it's just a tiny bit. It's not really that big of a difference, as you see in the benchmarks. We'll see what that even entails. We don't even know what that entails. So this side looks pretty good. It's only seems to be on this other side where there's that gap. But other than that, this, like, the texture on top feels pretty, like, it has that same slightly, very slightly, almost like micro orange peel texture that's on the OEM gate. This has the same texture, if you can see. It's pretty neat. Okay, now let's get the benchmarks of this one, and then we'll come back with some final impressions at the end. Okay, here we are. This is the RockerGaming gate in this controller, and it centers pretty well, as you can see. Okay, and now I am just going to do benchmarks really quick. Looks like there's a slight improvement actually on even the diagonals. Hey, it's looking pretty good. Cool. Okay, so what's my impression of this RockerGaming gate? I think it's just amazing. It's like it is. In some ways, it's better than an OEM gate, especially if you can't find one that's perfectly brand new. And that's becoming more and more rare and more expensive as time goes on. And so these are, I think these are just like elite level replacement parts. Even with this fact of this slight gap showing on this side, but when I do that, everything goes back down. And when I tested benchmarks, I made sure this was pressed closed, so that didn't even factor into the benchmarks. And in fact, as you saw, the benchmarks improved over this gate, which this gate is a little worn, but it's not so worn to be able to notice any problems in the mechanism. So it's a good gate. So compared to just a good 9 out of 10 gate, I actually would choose his RockerGaming's gate over an OEM. If I had to choose between a new in-box gate and rockers, I would choose the new in-box, but those are hundreds of dollars. So this is going to be a very amazing option. Plus, you get the color customization, and for people that like who play Super Mario 64, like that texture on the gate. Sorry, my memory card ran out of memory, so I had to delete some files. I was about to say that texture on the gate is very beneficial to Super Mario 64 players, because it kind of helps give haptic feedback as to where the stick is in the gate. This one is greasy smooth, and with a metal stick you get no feedback as to where you are in the notch. So I think this one is smooth. It's very smooth, but it just has that slight texture, and it gives you feedback where you are in the gate. So I highly recommend RockerGaming's gate, and I really would be on the lookout to buy them if I were you. And I'm definitely going to be including his gates in my my next modules that I start building again. So now that I have my own bowls again, I can, and with Rocker's gates, I can actually make modules that I'll be happy to sell. Whereas before, I was telling people to fend for themselves when it came to the gate, and that they would get a sloppy module that they would have to fix themselves with a new gate. So this is going to change the Nintendo 64 joystick community's lives. So I think you guys are going to love it. You should get one if you can, and if you don't get one in his first wave of drops, I would definitely wait for one because they're awesome. Have a good one. Thank you.